Hey guys, what's up? So, in this live session, we will discuss the question number 11 to 20, and let's get started with our live session. So, here, first of all, I'll discuss the question number 11. So, question number 11 talks about the spirit of tolerance and love is not only an interesting feature of Indian society from early times, but it is also playing an important role at the present. Elaborate. नाउ ये जो क्वेश्चन है ये पूछ रहा है कि मतलब इंडियंस इट्स कम फ्रॉम बेसिकली सोशियोलॉजी. इट इज़ अ टिपिकल क्वेश्चन ऑफ सोशियोलॉजी एंड इट हैज़ सम मिक्स ऑफ हिस्ट्री ऑल्सो बिकॉज यू हैव टू टॉक अबाउट बुद्धिज्म, जैनिज्म एंड एंशिएंट इंडिया, देन मेडिवल इंडिया एंड मॉडर्न इंडिया. So you can start with that tolerance and love. Yes, we 100% agree. There is no doubt about it. There is no two ways about it. 100% all of us agree with this, and we say that it is an intrinsic value of Indian society in time immemorial. Time immemorial is a phrase which you can use, or you can say since ancient times. In ancient India, there were three main religions of India, that is Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, and they developed more or less. Jainism and Buddhism developed more or less at the same time. They developed roughly around 2500 years ago. Each of them had component of tolerance, love, harmony, sympathy, kindness for all, not just human beings, even for ants, even for insects. So Jainism goes to the extent that they say that we will not eat onion and garlic because once you pull it out of the soil, it will kill the organisms. There were many rulers, like especially Ashoka post Kalinga War was one of those. They propagated these virtues to masses through edicts, inscriptions, and royal missions. He even sent his own kids to various parts of the world to propagate Buddhism. So tolerance and love was the core philosophy of Dhamma. You have heard about Ashoka the Great, so you can use his example here very well. आराम से use कर सकते हो. Despite the developments within Hinduism, there were a lot of caste system that came in later Vedic period, linguistic groups, religious sects. It was very much divided, Shaivites, Vaishnavites, and whatnot. But conflicts was not that great. Conflict did not arise. If you see the other parts of the world, there was huge conflict between various sects of other religions. In medieval India, despite the Muslim rule which came first from Delhi Sultanate and then from Mughals and spread of Islam, religious conflicts were not observed. There was no riots, communal violence. ये सब नहीं होता था medieval India में. जो riots, communal violence है, that started in the 20th century. It was not there before. If you see 1857 का revolt, they fought hand in hand. There was no issues. Some of the Muslim rulers like Akbar, they even gave patronage to artists and intellectuals of different faiths. So Navratan had many Hindus in it. Just to give an example, he had done a lot of inter-religious marriage alliances. You might everybody knows about it. And उससे क्या होता था, सोशल हारमोनी इंश्योर हो जाती है. फिर भक्ति और सूफी मूवमेंट होते थे, तो जैसे मीराबाई के बैलड, कबीर के दोहे, प्रीचिंग ऑफ नानक एंड अदर सेंट्स. आप कोई भी उठा के देख लो, they always talk about love and tolerance as the core message. And in modern times, these virtues are very much more significant for the current Indian society. Like to prevent the atrocities against the minority communities, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, other backward caste, females, and avoiding religious and communal conflicts. Unfortunately, India में बहुत होते हैं. To curb religious fanaticism, intolerance towards progressive artists, political critics. You might have heard about Gauri Lankesh. There are hundreds of such cases, not just one. वो थोड़ा highlight हो गया, but there are hundreds of such cases where people are shot in the daylight. For ensuring the integrity of India and brotherhood among the masses, so that it will augment nation's social capital. So these are the type of remarks which you can use. Question number 12. Examine how the decline of traditional artisanal industry in colonial India crippled the rural economy. Now this is a typical question of modern Indian history. If you read Rajiv here properly, if you watch any modern Indian history course, especially by Abhishek Srivastava, you will find this in different chapters. It is almost ubiquitous. Every book will have a question on this. So if you are not able to answer such questions, then you are in deep trouble. तो इसमें होता है British policies had a very deep and painful impact on the traditional artisanal industry and rural economy. It completely destroyed it. एक लाइन में मैं बोलूँ तो complete destruction हो गया था. It completely changed their structure to meet their own demands. And there was a newly emergent industrial economy of Britain. तो उसकी डिमांड को मीट करने के लिए इन्होंने उसका कचरा हो गया. So Indian handicrafts collapsed under the colonial rule due to competition from machine. Obviously, Britain flooded the Indian market with cheap products like cotton textile. Then railways facilitated the reach of these goods to remotest part in India, and they procured these parts from there and they supplied it to dock से ship होकर के they went to Britain. And following the policy of free trade, East India Company compelled Indian craftsmen to sell their goods and services at very very low prices. बहुत ही throwaway prices पे they had to do that. Then what was the impact on rural economy? So the rural economy became a supplier of raw material and importer of finished British goods, and it completely destroyed the industry altogether, which was flourishing from hundreds and thousands of years. And Indian craftsmen for the first time started abandoning their ancestral trade. Like no father wanted their son to do the same thing. It destroyed the self-sufficient village economy, as Mahatma Gandhi had called it, and it led to destruction of traditional industries, and it led to overcrowding in the agrarian sector, जो problem हम आज भी suffer करते हैं. Agrarian sector was not much developed. Agrarian was agriculture, and therefore could not absorb the artisans, causing mass unemployment and rural stress. Further overcrowding and easily available agricultural labor, exploitation by zamindar and land officials started, and many artisans and their families migrated towards cities for work. It created urban slums. They had to work for long hours, for days in bad conditions, and factories for very low wages. So this is how you can answer that. Question number 13. Highlight the importance of the new objectives that got added to the vision of Indian independence since 20s of the last century. So you can say that, so here basically they are talking about new objectives that got added since 20s of the last century, the third decade of the 20th century. That's what they want to talk about. So it became a watershed moment in the Indian history. So first of all, Gandhi ji emerged into picture big time. Gandhian philosophy of Satyagraha had found its appeal in the masses. Freedom movement became a truly mass-based movement for the first time during the 1920s. And Gandhi's ideas on Swaraj, Ram Rajya, Ahimsa, Satya, democracy, Satyagraha, village economy, they took concrete shape. Until today they are continuing. Then Marxist and socialist ideas spread and influenced young nationalists like Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, and they opposed the Gandhian ideas to certain extent and political programs, and they advocated radical solution for country's problems. Then all over the country, students' league were formed, peasants started agitating against colonial laws like Rampa Revolt, Bardoli Satyagraha, trade union, All India Council of trade union started this time, and they gained pace, signifying the aspiration of every section for a free, equitable and just society. Then another development was growth of so to speak, Bipin Chandra called it revolutionary terrorism, but many people oppose this word, so I don't know if you should use it or not, due to disillusionment of youth and ideas from Russian Revolution, etc. And so you should call them just revolutionaries, avoid that word. Then communal nationalism, which was seen for the first time, it happened in Khilafat movement, non-cooperation alliance, when Hindus and Muslims came together and put a joint front. So after 1857 revolt, this was the first time it came together. And finally, Britishers used them to create extreme communalism, and finally it led to two nation theory, ultimately the partition of India. So these development in 20s, they kept on going in the next 20 years also, due to growth, spread and incorporation of above ideas and ideals, so which eventually helped in intensification of freedom movement and in shaping the idea of independent India. So I hope that point is clear. And question number 14 says, account for variation in oceanic salinity and discuss its multidimensional effects. Now this is a typical question of geography. So oceanic salinity is the total content of dissolved salts in sea water. Very very simple, and it varies both horizontally and vertically. So various reasons will, first of all, rate of evaporation. So evaporation किससे control होता है? Temperature से. So relative humidity, instability or stability in the lower layers of the atmosphere. So equatorial region, since there is very high relative humidity, it will retard the evaporation. Subtropical regions will have the highest salinity because the temperature is also high and the humidity is low. So because there is a clear sky, descending air current, they will favor a very high rate of evaporation, and salinity will gradually decrease towards the equator and the poles. So subtropical region will have the highest salinity, please remember this point. And polar areas will have very 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 low evaporation because of almost sub-zero temperature, and thereby they will have the lowest salinity possible. Then there is supply of clean and fresh water. So fresh water from rainfall, that is the equatorial regions, melting of sea ice and icebergs and rivers dilute the sea water and reduces its salinity. आप समझ रहे हो. Then third point is prevailing winds. So trade winds will transport warm and saline water from the eastern parts of the ocean to the western part, and upwelling happen of the cooler and less saline water in the eastern part. So the salinity will be reduced in the eastern parts. So this is also a very important point. I can't explain you the trade winds, but just try to remember these points. Now mixing happens through the movement of the ocean water. So less saline, more saline, they will mix with each other. Tides, currents and waves cause continuous mixing of surface layers with subsurface layers of the ocean, and warm ocean currents carry warm and more saline water towards the polar regions. Example, movement of Gulf Stream raises salinity in the northeast Atlantic Ocean. And finally, salinity generally increases with depth, but vertical variation is different in different latitudes due to evaporation and influx, absence of fresh water. Now variation in oceanic salinity has multidimensional effects. So this is also a very very important question. So salinity will affect seawater density. Since it is affecting seawater density, उससे क्या होगा? It will govern the ocean circulation and climate. Very very important point. So if you change the salinity, it affects the climate also. So ocean currents always they tend to move over a gradient. Okay. So here they will move from regions of low salinity to high salinity, and this will help in temperature distribution and salinity distribution across the oceans. Now global warming and changes in global evaporation cycle and rainfall will alter the ocean salinity. Salinity का मतलब होता है उसमें कितना नमक है यार, बेसिकली बहुत ही सिंपल क्रूड शब्दों में बोलूँ तो. इससे क्या होगा, इसका डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन पैटर्न चेंज होगा. तो ओशियन करंट सर्कुलेशन है जिसको कन्वेयर बेल्ट की तरह आप मान लो. जैसे कन्वेयर बेल्ट होता है ना एयरपोर्ट पे कि उस पर बैग आते हैं और जाते हैं, आते हैं और जाते हैं, तो वैसे एक कन्वेयर बेल्ट होता है पूरे वर्ल्ड के ओशियंस का. सो इट विल गेट अफेक्टेड. इससे क्या होगा, दैट विल अफेक्ट विंड पैटर्न्स, वेरियस ओशन फिनोमेना, एलिनो, लानिनो, मॉनसून, सबका सब तैनाश हो सकता है. ग्लोबल क्लाइमेट अफेक्ट हो सकता है. फिर मरीन इकोसिस्टम विल गेट अफेक्टेड, क्योंकि जो फ्लोरा एंड फौना है वो मिलियंस ऑफ ईयर्स में इवॉल्व हुआ है सैलिनिटी लेवल पे रहने के लिए. दे आर अडेप्टेड टू सर्टेन सैलिनिटी कंडीशंस. अब एकदम से उसको कम ज़्यादा कर दोगे सो द मेनी ऑफ देम विल डाई. Slight change in salinity and temperature can cause death of fishes and marine organisms. It will impact fishery and coastal economy. Okay. Question number 15. Petroleum refineries are not necessarily located nearer to crude oil producing areas. ये सबको पता होना चाहिए. Particularly in many of the developing countries. Explain its implication. तो मैं बता देता हूँ इसका कैसे आंसर होगा. पेट्रोलियम रिफाइनरी आर जनरली नॉट लोकेटेड नियर टू क्रूड ऑयल बिकॉज ऑफ द फॉलोइंग रीजंस. चालू ऐसे करो. इंडस्ट्रियल लोकेशन थ्योरी सजेस्ट इंडस्ट्री कैन बी सेटअप नियर आइदर द रॉ मटेरियल सोर्स और द मार्केट टू मिनिमाइज द ट्रांसपोर्ट कॉस्ट. नाउ रॉ मटेरियल दैट इज क्रूड ऑयल इज ए लेस डिसाइसिव फैक्टर हियर, बट बिकॉज द वेट लॉस इज वेरी लो, सो द मार्केट बिकम्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. Here why? Because insignificant weight loss post refining and fear of refinery becoming redundant after exhaustion of oil well. So मान लो आपने रिफाइनरी वहाँ सेटअप करी तो ऑयल वेल तो एग्जॉस्ट हो गया, उसके बाद क्या करोगे. दूसरा पॉइंट, क्रूड ऑयल प्रोड्यूसिंग कंट्रीज आर इन मिडिल ईस्ट एंड अफ्रीका. दे सफर फ्रॉम लॉट ऑफ वॉर्स. अरब इजरायली कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होते हैं, ईरान इराक वॉर्स होते हैं, पॉलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी होती है साउथ अमेरिका में, वेनेजुएला वगैरह जो कंट्री हैं, अनसर्टिनिटी होती है. तो जो मल्टीनेशनल कंपनी होती है वो यहाँ पे कभी भी अपनी रिफाइनरी सेटअप नहीं करती है, क्योंकि उनको नहीं पता कल को भाई कुछ कैप्चर कर लें, उनके तो बिलियंस ऑफ डॉलर्स का नुकसान हो जाएगा. तीसरा पॉइंट बताता हूँ, देयर इज़ अ वेरी लिटिल डोमेस्टिक डिमांड इन दीज कंट्रीज एंड मोस्ट ऑफ दिस विल बी एक्सपोर्टेड. ठीक है, ड्यू टू लैक ऑफ इंडस्ट्रियल डेवलपमेंट, अंडर डेवलप्ड मार्केट. सो एनीवे उसको वहाँ पे सेटअप करने का कोई पॉइंट नहीं बनता. फर्दर देयर इज़ अ डेवलपमेंट ऑफ लार्ज टैंकर्स एंड शिप्स. ऑयल स्पिल्स का एक नेगेटिव पॉइंट है इसमें, क्योंकि इतने बड़े बड़े टैंकर्स और शिप्स होते हैं, अगर कुछ हो गया तो पूरा ओशियन का जो वो सराउंडिंग रीजन है वो बिल्कुल बर्बाद हो जाता है. सो डेवलपमेंट ऑफ लार्ज टैंकर्स एंड शिप्स, पाइपलाइंस, ट्रांसपोर्ट नेटवर्क, इट कैन फैसिलिटेट द बल्क ट्रांसपोर्टेशन ऑफ क्रूड ऑयल. सो देयरफॉर रिफाइनरीज सिर्फ यूजुअली दो लोकेशन पे लोकेटेड होती हैं, या तो पोर्ट पे होती है, पोर्ट क्योंकि शिप्स चाहिए होती हैं तो बड़े बड़े शिप्स में, या फिर वो बिग मार्केट्स में होती हैं, जैसे यूएसए इज़ वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट मार्केट. ठीक है. Developed refineries on east coast sourcing crude from Venezuela and West Asia for USA. Now refineries clusters developed around Rotterdam and Thames. Thames एक रिवर है जो लंदन जिस पे बेस्ड है वो थेम्स है. रॉटरडैम एक जगह है द नीदरलैंड्स में. नीदरलैंड्स और इंग्लैंड आजू बाजू में ही है. यूरोपियन मार्केट जामनगर में है वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट रिफाइनरीज, क्योंकि इंडिया. इम्प्लीकेशन क्या होता है, ड्यू टू लैक ऑफ वैल्यू एडिशन एंड लो क्रूड ऑयल प्राइस तो द क्रूड ऑयल प्रोड्यूसिंग रीजन्स जो जहाँ पे प्रोड्यूस होता है वो एक डिसएडवांटेज पर रहते हैं देन दोज हैविंग फ्यू रिफाइनरीज एंड मोस्ट ऑफ द क्रूड ऑयल प्रोड्यूसिंग कंट्रीज हैव मेनली ऑयल डिपेंडेंट इकोनॉमी, ये भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है. एंड मार्केट एंड प्राइस डिसरप्शन, पॉलिटिकल इंस्टेबिलिटी, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स, इट विल अफेक्ट ऑयल मार्केट और इससे क्या होगा, इट विल पुट एन इमेंस प्रेशर ऑन दीज इकोनॉमीज एज वेल. और अराउंड रिफाइनरी लोकेशंस मैनी ऑक्सिलरी इंडस्ट्रीज डेवलप्ड जिससे एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन होता है. भाई लाखों लोग एम्प्लॉयड होते हैं यार, कम से कम हज़ारों लोग एम्प्लॉयड होते हैं. एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन होता है, इंडस्ट्रियल डेवलपमेंट होता है, रीजनल डेवलपमेंट होता है. जामनगर इज अ परफेक्ट एग्जाम्पल, अब जाके देखना. एंड ट्रांसपोर्टेशन ऑफ क्रूड ऑयल टू रिफाइनरी लोकेशंस, इसमें दो चीज़ों का बहुत बड़ा रिस्क होता है. एक तो मैंने आपको बता दिया ऑयल स्पिल्स होंगे तो दैट विल डीपली हार्म दी मरीन इकोलॉजी. और दूसरा पॉइंट होगा रिस्क ऑफ पायरेसी, खासकर कि गल्फ ऑफ ईडन और सोमाली कोस्ट में क्या होता है, पायरेट्स आके लूट लेते हैं. तो अभी अपने 5 क्वेश्चन डिस्कस किए हैं. लास्ट अगले मतलब आज ही रात को मैं 1 बजे लूँगा करीब, तो उसमें मैं बाकी 5 भी डिस्कस कर लूँगा. तो थैंक यू.